So if we can invite ourselves to simply be in recognition of the peace that we are, the simple, undifferentiated presence, the presence of awareness, presence of I awareness. And welcome your experience, whichever way it appears. A sort of listening that has no personal agenda. Effortless, open, borderless presence. That has no interest in fixing anything, in remembering anything, figuring anything out. Simply is happy to be, the happiness of being. And this happiness is our essential nature. In and as this happiness, we are one as the one love, one as the tenderness of the heart, the tenderness of being. So I am this yesness, the yesness to love and beauty. I do not exist in the past or the future. In presence and as presence, there are no images. It's just the borderless presence. No structures that we need to defend or judge. So welcome yourself as that which is not the product of the mind, not the product of thought or memory, but that within which all appearances appear. In being, in love, in truth, in the sincerity, the purity of being. We have no images of each other, no image of ourselves. The limitation of images, the judgments. Which are unhappy. They are unhappy within us and unhappy in our relationships. While in the freshness of meeting, of being, of presence, there are no conditions. It's a wide open embrace. And it is in and as this embrace that the joy of being resides in the entire cosmic realm. Is it possible to suspend a judgmental image as it arises? Are we interested in meeting each other freshly? And sometimes images do arise, don't they? He should be like this, she should be like that. Do we have the interest in pausing when such thoughts arise? Or shall we go on repeating eons after eons? The mess and the messiness of image making and judgment. Here we are, this moment, every moment, a fresh moment of complete availability. Can we perceive from the right place, the place of the heart, the place of wisdom, the place of love? We start within ourselves, the inner stillness. First, there is the recognition that there is a realm of activity, thoughts, sensations, perceptions, memories, images, feelings. But there is also another realm, which is the realm of reality, the reality, which is the reality of awareness. which is the reality that perceives. But is not dependent on that which it perceives. Which is there whenever you look for awareness, it's right there. Unchanging, formless, undeniable. Images come and go. The body appears, changes, disappears. Sensations, perceptions. Yet there is that which neither appears nor disappears. Your experience right now, the reality of your experience. That which truly perceives, which truly is, has no name, no age, no gender, not tall, not short. Can we recognize the reality of awareness and recognize this? Awareness is this I, what we call I. Not I, the body, the father, mother, daughter, son, whatever. Not I, the form, the many forms, myriad forms, but I, reality, reality of consciousness. Can we meet each other as that reality? To recognize the so-called other as oneself. Well, we can be open for that possibility, can't we? The possibility of no separation. So we say yes to that. Our yesness is an important step. We have notions and ideas that arise from history, from tradition, the conditioned mind, ideas and beliefs about each other, about love, about beauty. We perceive through the lenses of the conditioned mind. From tribe to tribe, we have different norms, different traditions that separate us. or you belong to another tribe, a different tribe. You're not accepted here. We don't recognize you here. We don't love you here. You're not one of us. You don't look like you should look. You don't smell like you should smell. You don't talk like you should talk. Can we be sensitive to those filters within our mind and their falsehood? Not only they divide us internally, but also in our life, in relationship. You don't fit this image. In images we have of ourselves. What do people perceive us? Not only images of ourselves, but images that we have of images that other people have of us. Images within images. Deeper and deeper in the tunnel. The confusion, the lack of clarity. So we step into the light, we denude ourselves, we drop the veils, we let go of beliefs, tradition, the past, and we explore a new dimension, the dimension of meeting each other and meeting oneself as this transparent, aware presence, which is undeniable. And that's a big step forward towards love and beauty. Every little step that we make in the right direction is a big step. Okay, so if you have any questions, anything that you'd like to share or explore, please make sure you unmute your mic. So any questions?
Hi, Magdi.
Richard, hello, Richard.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Um, I, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to the becoming aware of the distinction between awareness and mind, or awareness and mental activity, because I in some ways intellectually I understand the distinction in the sense that I understand that my physical, my mental, all of my thoughts are activities of which there is awareness. And I know that there's a difference between my thoughts and my feelings and my awareness of those thoughts and feelings. But I find it difficult sometimes to tease out to separate the two, to live that distinction between my aware, or maybe not my awareness, but to live the distinction between awareness and the mental activities, if
Yes.
that makes sense. Like, I often find myself collapsing them together in my everyday life.
Yes, Richard. So it's good. It seems like you have the understanding that awareness is the reality that perceives, and that mind or mental activities, the world, bodily sensations are perceived, quotes unquote, objects of perception, if we can use this language. And awareness is that which perceive, which is not an object. So
Yeah.
that's why it's good that you have that understanding. That's an important understanding. We use this understanding to uh, sort of point towards awareness. In our regular conditioned mind, um, our experience seems to be limited to thoughts, perceptions, and sensations. And so in Advaita, in the non-dual teaching, we invite ourselves to notice that, yes, there are world, body, mind events. There are thoughts, sensations, perceptions, but there is also something else that is not perceived, which is the reality which perceives, which we refer to as awareness, or we refer to as I. Now, your question, if I understood it, is that you're having difficulty sort of separating the two. Now, in fact, they're not separate. If you, right now, in this moment, you're hearing these words, if you try to separate the awareness from the hearing, you will not succeed at doing so, because there is no separation. Only mentally you may create some imaginary separation, but in your direct experience in this moment, it's the one. The awareness of the hearing and the hearing are occurring simultaneously. So in fact, you know, in terms of your incapacity to separate the two is justified, because it's not possible to separate the wave from the water. The wave is made out of the water makes the waves, they're not two. Yet I would like to point out to you a different direction that may help you with your question. The direction is, when you ask yourself, am I aware? When you ask yourself, am I aware, is a quite different question from the question, am I hearing these words? The question, am I hearing these words? The answer is yes, I am hearing these words, because that's my experience. There is an object which is a vacillation of English sound, of sounds which my brain processes due to its being trained in the English language. I can comprehend, and I can hear and comprehend. So there is an object of perception, and the awareness is not separate from the object. But that question, am I aware of hearing these words, is different from am I aware of being aware? Because the question am I aware of being aware has no object to it. There is no sound, there is no sensation, there is no thought. It's awareness referring to itself. So obviously the answer to, am I aware of being aware, is yes. Or in both cases, the answer is yes. But in the case of hearing, you go to your experience of perceiving a sound and you say, yes, I am perceiving a sound. But in terms of your experience of being aware, you don't go to any object. The question, am I aware of being aware, or just am I aware, arises out of awareness. It's referring to itself. It arises out of itself, and it's referring to itself. So it's a question that carries within it its own answer within the question, within itself. So there is a perception of the world, body, mind, which is non-dual, but there is also a perception which is non-phenomenal, which is referred to as an apperception. I think this is a term that was introduced by David Bohm, if I'm correct. It's an apperception because it's a perception that is object-free. I think it's important to understand that awareness is self-knowing. It knows it is. It knows it is, and it knows it is aware, independent of the world, body, mind. And awareness knows the world, body, mind via the functions of the body, mind, via the functions of the body, the senses, the brain activities. So there is an instrument in terms of the world, body, mind. There is an instrument of perception, while in terms of awareness, there is no instrument. And it's important to comprehend that I, awareness, inherently, I know myself and I am formless. Awareness is formless and it's real. Why is it real? Because our experience demonstrates the reality of awareness. It's not possible to perceive or to hear these words without awareness. So awareness proves itself throughout our entire experience, and awareness is aware that it's aware. In ignorance, we believe that awareness is dependent on the world, body, mind. It needs sounds, it needs feelings, it needs sensations, it needs relationships, and that it's limited to that. And as soon as the world, body, mind disappear, then awareness will disappear. That's misunderstanding about awareness.
Right. And I understand, and I agree that it is the case that the dissolution of the body mind, be it death or sleep or whatever, is not the same thing as the absence of awareness. I understand that to whatever degree I'm able to right now, and I'm sure that'll continue to develop. And I understand that to some degree experientially, to some degree just through thinking through it. To go back to, you made an important distinction between my awareness of perceptions, right, in the perceptual world, and then perceptions. Yeah, that's a great term, but I'm aware of awareness. So I think I'm overcomplicating this because I think I'm aware of some bodily sensations and some emotional sensations, and I have a certain type of awareness of those, and I have maybe a different type. I'm aware of mental activities in maybe a different way. Maybe not. Seems like I am.
How are you aware of bodily sensation and mental activities in a different way?
Right, and that's. Did you ask how is that the case, or are you asking me to explain how I think it's the case?
Either.
Because I think maybe when I get more into contemplation of awareness, or contemplation of, you asking that question, am I aware?
No, the question, if I understood you right, you said that you're aware of bodily sensations in a different way than you're aware of mental activities. Did I hear you right?
Yes, that is what I said.
Okay.
Yes.
So the question is, what is the difference? Can you speak to if you can, everybody, if you can mute yourself, please.
I think he's.
If you can say some more about that, Richard.
Well, I think to use the example that you gave, when I contemplate, am I aware? I feel my experiences of that awareness of awareness, or awareness of the question and its answer, is different than, working through a math problem.
Okay.
Or does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. But maybe I misunderstood you. I heard you say that awareness of mental activity in your experience is different from awareness of, for example, sensations or perceptions.
I should be more clear. I think that the awareness itself isn't different. I'm aware of different characteristics of each. So I misspoke.
Well, I mean, if you look at thoughts, mental activity is mostly thoughts and images, right?
Yeah.
Yes, mental activity, thoughts and images, and they're constantly changing.
Sure.
From minute to minute, they're changing. Their appearances. There is an appearance, which is a thought or a memory or an image, which we refer to as a subtle phenomena, a subtle appearance, a subtle object. How about that? A subtle object. And there is a different type of experience, which is, for example, experiencing a perception, like you perceive the oak tree in the yard. And the oak tree is 50 feet tall. That's also an object. It's like a more crude object, I forgot the term, but it's not a subtle, it's a non-subtle object. But it's an object, yes? So both are objects. Both are phenomena appearing within awareness. So yes, they differ in their shape and their form, their density, their consistency, their color, blah, blah. In the same way that thought A differs from thought B, and perception A differs from perception B, and also thought A differs from perception A, and thought B differs from perception A. So yes, they do differ, but they're not. They are the same in that they are appearances.
Yes.
We refer to as mind. So at some level, mind activities differ. At another level, they're all the same because they're all mind activities. The brain synaptic activity within the brain.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. Yes, I agree with that as well. Yes.
Yes. And awareness, of course, is a totally different thing, because awareness is neither a subtle object, nor a gross object. It is not something that one perceives. Awareness is what I is, or what I am, what we refer to as the reality of being. So that's where the difference really lies, in that awareness is nominal while the mind is phenomenal. Now, at one level, that's a difference, but at another level, if you look, for example, at the metaphor of the ocean and the waves, both the ocean and the waves are made out of water. The ocean is not moving, but yet when it moves, that's what we call waves. So the ocean at rest, we refer to it as ocean. The ocean in motion, we refer to it as waves. Similarly, awareness at rest, we refer to as being, the peace of being. And awareness in motion, we refer to as the world, body, mind. The reality of the world, body, mind, like the reality of the waves, is awareness, like the reality of the waves is the water. I'm not sure if I addressed your question, but I addressed what I thought I understood you to.
I'm not sure I fully understand my question either, but yes. So can I, along those lines, because you're helping me even form the questions better. So yes, for sure. Like all mental activity and all, whether there's perceptions or thoughts or whatever, that's all. Yeah, that's all phenomenal. Absolutely. And the noumena is what is aware of everything. Yeah. Aware of everything, right?
Yes.
Awareness is aware of everything. So
no, it's not aware of everything. Awareness takes on the form of activity. It's not like there are things outside of awareness, and awareness is aware of everything. By its awareness being the reality, one reality, then the world, body, mind, which is an activity, is the activity of that one reality.
Yes. Thank you, because I think I did misspeak. So I think what I'm trying to ask, maybe I'll give it one more try, and then I'll concede and think some more. Awareness is always only ever aware of awareness, because as awareness is reality.
But it's also aware of hearing this conversation. It takes on the form of this conversation as well.
So maybe what I've been thinking, or the question I'm asking is awareness. Is there a way in which awareness manifests that's non-phenomenal? Is there where awareness is aware of itself as non-phenomenal, or is it always aware of itself as in phenomenal activity?
No, absolutely. It is definitely aware of itself non-phenomenally. And when you two ways of looking at this, when there is thought A, then thought A ends, and then thought B starts. Because for thought B to start, there has to be a gap between thought A and thought B. Because if there was no gap between thought A and thought B, then there would be one thought. We would not be referring to them as thought A and thought B. So there is a gap between thought A and thought B. You do not disappear between thoughts. Yes, when there is thought A, there is thought A, and then when thought A is absent, there is a gap, and then thought B appears. Yes, there is no thought between thought A and thought B, but in spite of the fact that there is no thought, no phenomenal thought, you don't disappear. Consciousness, awareness is. That applies as well to perceptions, between perception A, perception B, or sensations, sensation A, sensation B. There is a gap between one sensation and another. You do not disappear, you are, you remain, you are. So awareness is aware in the presence of form as well as in the absence of form. Another way of saying it, which is more correct, is that awareness takes on the form of form A, the form of form B, but doesn't need to take on the form of any form. And the proof of it is in between two forms. It's not taking on any form. So that's an important understanding that, yes, you are experiencing perceptions, sensations, thoughts, memories, feelings, etc. But that which you are, awareness, is not dependent on the thoughts, on the perceptions, on the sensations. In fact, you exist, quotes unquote, in between thoughts and sensations and perceptions. Another way of saying it, you exist irrespective of thoughts, sensations, and perceptions. In other words, the ocean, water, exists irrespective of the presence or absence of waves, big waves, small waves, foamy waves, violent waves. Water is the reality of waves. It doesn't depend on a wave to become water. Consciousness, awareness doesn't depend on perceptions or sensations in order to become awareness. And you know yourself as I awareness, not because I double checked with the sensation in my belly and I can feel some hunger in my belly, therefore the conclusion is that I am awareness. No, the conclusion is that, oh, this body is hungry. So you don't come to the conclusion that I am aware and I know that I'm aware because you checked with your memory or you checked with your feelings or you checked with your priest or rabbi or the guru. No, you know that you are aware irrespective of whether there are perceptions, sensations or not. You know that directly, there is a direct perception, a direct knowingness, which is inherent to the reality of awareness. Awareness is the reality of all experiences. It knows its creation. It doesn't depend on its creation. It is the creator of all creation and the perceiver of all creation. And is the reality, the one reality. And we know this reality experientially. It's not a concept. We're not having a conceptual talk about reality. We know that I am aware. That's nobody can take that away from you or teach you that. That's you are the reality of consciousness, and you know it experientially, moment by moment. You've never experienced being anything else than awareness, but you have believed, and maybe you have felt that you are a man, a person, a son, or whatever. But the fact that you believe that you are a person, and the belief is just something that appears to you. For example, we used to believe the earth was flat. That was a thought that, we didn't have a chance to, at least hundreds of years ago, to verify it. But it was a thought that appeared to us. So the thought that I am Richard appears to us. The thought that appears to us that says I am Richard, if you look into it, if you investigate that belief, you will find that no, Richard is an appearance that appears to you, you being awareness. And awareness doesn't depend on the thought appearing or not appearing. In other words, awareness doesn't depend on the belief that the earth is flat or square or hexagonal. It doesn't give a hoot about it, right?
Thank you. I mean, it's interesting. I think like with any genuine learning, because I've heard you, for example, talk about the gaps before, and like in some ways, like yeah, I get that, but I don't think I was really just even able to. There's so much more to that than what I was understanding before. So that is helpful, just because I think I'm at that a different point thinking about it. So thank you very much.
Oh, okay, Richard.
I always appreciate this the themes you come back to. Thank you very much, Magdi.
So, thank you for your question. Any question?
Hey, Magdi, it's Frank. I do have I think it's a quick question this time.
Hi, Frank.
Hey. Oh, man, thanks so much for these meetings, by the way. They're so, oh my God, I can't thank you enough. Yeah, the question is, I've heard, and I hope it's okay to bring somebody else's name up, another teacher's name up. Rupert Spira talks a lot about knowing and how everything really is knowing. So even like if you're looking at something that's seeing, but without knowing doesn't exist, because you have to know that you're seeing, right? And that goes for everything. And then my question has always been, and I guess I didn't really know how to ask it, but my question has been, and still is, if everything is knowing, and everything is created by, and I guess knowing is another word for awareness, I'm thinking. So is knowing creating everything that it's looking at, everything that it's knowing? Is it creating that? It has to be, right? It has to be creating what it knows. Well, that's my question.
A good metaphor that towards your question, Frank, is your night dreams. So in your night dreams, there are all sorts of perceptions and sensations and activities and events and stories and all sorts of things happening. They arise out of you, and they're perceived by you being the dreamer. Right? They arise out of the dreamer's mind. And as they're arising, you're actually experiencing them. The arising and the experiencing are simultaneous. In other words, when a pink flying elephant appears in your dream, you're experiencing that pink flying elephant. It's not that there is a pink flying elephant somewhere and then you travel and you find it. It's a co-arising. The co-arising of the dreamer, out of the dreamer's mind, all creation arises and is perceived by the dreamer's mind. Even, let's say that in your night dream, you dream that you are meeting a friend that you haven't seen in 20 years, and that you're having a conversation with this friend. You say, hey, Bill, how are you? Bill says, hey, Frank, I haven't seen in a long time. Do you remember when we went for a walk together and we went and we played by the stream and we had fun together? And you tell Bill, yeah, I remember that. In this conversation that's occurring in your night dream, you are not Bill, you are Bill's friend, you're Frank. And you meet Bill in your night dream. And in a way, you don't know what Bill is going to say, and you don't know what you're going to say. So you say, hi, Bill. And he says, hey, Frank, how are you doing? You didn't even know that he was going to say, how are you doing? And that he was going to start to talk with you about the time where you went together, played in the pond. You didn't know that. But in fact, you did know that. Because you are creating out of your mind, you're creating Frank and Bill, and you're creating Bill's conversation, and And you're creating the sense of surprise. Oh, Frank, you're creating the sense of surprise. you, you follow what I'm saying? So, yes.
So it's a simultaneous knowing and knowing the object of so the knowing of creation and creation itself, it's a simultaneous happening.
Absolutely. Okay. Like in this moment, you didn't know these words, you were going to say these words a second ago. But as you were saying these words, and like as I'm saying these words, I'm aware of this of the words. So it's a simultaneous creation and perception.
Yeah.
You know, in this,
and the entire world, so the entire world is being created as it's that's a little bit too much for me to understand. You need like the entire world, the planets and everything. Are they all being created and being known at the same time? That's probably too much of a too big of a subject for me to get into right now with you. But what do you go ahead, I'll let you talk.
Okay. A couple of things about the world. Now, if I say, okay, you know, hey, you know, the world is just, I'm creating the world and I'm experiencing the world in my own mind. Obviously, that would be a little silly to say that because somebody else is also experiencing the world in their mind. So the world is not limited to my experience. There is a reality to the world beyond my experience. New York City exists, it has a reality outside of my experience of being in Southern California right now. So I cannot make with any certainty the statement that I am creating the world and I'm experiencing the world and there is no world outside of my own creation and my own experience. I hesitate to make that. I don't have any evidence sufficient to, and in fact, the evidence that there are other people experiencing New York City besides me points to New York City being beyond just my mind. Now, although New York City is, I cannot conclude that it's limited to my mind. Obviously, it's not, because other minds are experiencing New York City. New York City, the perception or the image of New York City appears with an awareness. And right now, this perception is appearing within awareness. Now, awareness, when you take a look at awareness, you will find, first of all, that awareness is real. Real meaning it does not depend on anything. Like a mirror reflects all sorts of images. It does not depend on the images that appears to it. Like water doesn't depend on the waves. So when you contemplate awareness, you come to the understanding that awareness is real. Secondly, that awareness is borderless. In your experience right now, you cannot find any borders to awareness. You cannot find any location to awareness. You cannot say awareness is in California, or awareness is in Iowa, or awareness is in Denver. No, you could say that California, this experience, this perception is appearing within awareness. So awareness is real, is borderless. Borderless means there are no frontiers to it. So when you put the two together, that the universe, the world, the planet, New York City is real outside of my mind. It's not just limited to my mind. But if it's real, then what is its reality? We know from our direct experience that awareness is real. And we also know, and this is something that I'm going to just propose without looking into it, but I'm available to look into it at any time. We also know that there is one reality. One reality. So if we put the two together, that New York City is real and awareness is a reality of my experience, or is real, then the reality of New York City must be the reality of consciousness. This is why you often hear me say that there is one reality. There is the world, the body, the mind, infinite worlds, infinite universes, infinite bodies, infinite minds. But they refer to one reality. Like the ocean, there are infinite currents, but there is one ocean, one reality. So I am not saying that the world or the universe is my own creation as my mind. It's not the creation of my personal mind. That's not what I'm saying. I'm using the metaphor of the dream state, just to point out to answer your question about whether there is a co-creation and perception, that creation and perception are one. So I was using that as a metaphor that yes, awareness, not personal mind, awareness is being the one reality. If there is anything that is being created, it has to be created out of that one reality, or it would be created out of thin air. So it's really important to come first to the understanding that there is one reality, and that reality is the reality of consciousness, of awareness, what we refer to as I. Not I, Frank, not I, Magdi, not I, the personal mind, the limited mind, but I, consciousness, awareness. Once you come to that understanding, then the metaphor of the dream mind refers to consciousness creating and perceiving. Because if there is a reality to creation, then the reality of creation must be the reality of consciousness. If there is a reality to perception, then the reality of perception must be consciousness, awareness. So the stepping stone, or the initial understanding, is about the reality of awareness and its universality. You follow, Frank?
I am following. This is a big, for me, this is a very deep and very difficult subject to grasp on any level. Mm-hmm. But I see my mind like doing all kinds of flips, back flips and stuff, trying to understand this. And I know it's not going to come from the mind understanding, but I'm going to leave it here. I wouldn't really even know where to go with this as far as asking questions about it. So I'm just going to let it lie. If you want to keep talking about it, that'd be great. If not, that's fine too. But I'm going to stop here.
Yes.
So thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, you're welcome, Frank. I do want to encourage you to contemplate what is the reality of your experience. Before getting into whether creation and perception are two or one, is there co-arising? Start with what is the reality of your experience. Now, in your experience, there is mind meaning perceptions, sensations, and thoughts. Not to be denied. The question is, what is the reality of that experience? It's a simple question, which I asked myself, from myself to myself. I asked myself, what is the reality of this experience, this freaking experience? Keep in mind, Frank, that reality is not something that changes over time. It's not a different reality in the year 2010 and the year 2020. It's a different reality. No. And we have to be clear about what we mean by reality. Reality is that which is constant, changeless, and cannot be dependent on something else. If a reality is dependent on something else, then that something else upon which reality depends would be a higher reality. So the buck got to stop somewhere. By reality, we're referring to that which does not depend on anything else. So you need to look at this question within your experience. What is it in your experience that is real, absolute, and that does not depend on anything else? And come to absolute certainty about that first, that the reality of your experience is awareness, and that awareness doesn't depend on the body or the mind or the feelings of Frank. The body-mind doesn't depend on the body-mind.
Is knowing a good synonym for reality and awareness or consciousness, do you think?
I like the term reality. I don't use the term knowing, although sometimes I do, but not often, because it may give the impression of an object and a subject. You know, I know this and you know that. I speak my language, Frank. Follow whatever resonates for you.
Okay.
If it resonates for you, it resonates for you. I use the term knowing as awareness. Yes, that awareness is knowing. It knows that it knows.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness.
So it's a little dualistic. You think the term knowing is a little dualistic for you?
It depends how you approach it. Depends how you approach it. Like, awareness is aware that it is aware. Knowing must know that it knows because it is made out of knowingness. So knowing knows that it is knowing. So it's a different language. If you understand it the right way, it delivers the understanding that's good. Whatever delivers the understanding is good, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Every teacher speaks their own way, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just speak the way I speak. But yes, if in the terms, everything is made out of knowing, and knowing knows that it knows, and that it's made out of knowingness. If you find that resonates for you, then it's great. It resonates for you. The thing to understand is that knowingness can be objective, meaning I know that your name is Frank, or the name of your body is Frank. Your name is Frank. I know that. So there is an objective knowingness. There is a Frank with a name F-R-A-N-K. Boom. So there is an objective aspect to knowingness, but there's also a subjective aspect to knowingness. The subjective aspect is that I know that I know. I know that I am, and I know that I know. Not I know that I am Magdi, or I know that I'm a male, or I know that I'm 6 foot tall. No. Just I know that I am, and I know that I know. There's no object element to that. It's just that. So there is the phenomenal aspect of knowingness, and there is the noumenal aspect of knowingness. It's important that you comprehend that I refers to that knowingness, to that awareness. Not I, the body, just I. Before you add on a body, before you add on a form. Before you add on history, there is I. Before you add on a country, before you add on parents, before you add on a civilization, I. Okay?
Okay, that's very good. Thank you, Magdi, so much.
Yes. I, the reality, the one reality which we refer to as I. Okay.
Magdi.
Oui, salut Shiva.
Hi, hi,
Hi.
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 Here I am.
Nice to see you.
Hi.
Shiva. Ça va? Tout
Nice
va
to
bien?
see you too.
Yes, yes, beautiful. Okay.
I'd like to pick up the thread of Frank and your conversation and include experience.
Yes.
So we're experiencing thoughts, physical sensations, the world,
Yes.
our idea of who we are, etc.
Yes.
And that is perceived by or through either an idea, like the person, or by consciousness. So that seems to be the choice we have, right?
Yes, one choice is real, the other choice is illusion.
Right. Okay, good. Like, no, I understand. But so that ultimately it's always consciousness perceiving everything. Now, I remember the last time I shared, we ended up with something about suffering. And you said something, yes, but there is the world suffering or so. And I remember that must have been like 2 months ago or so. And there was at the time an incredibly strong feeling of being merged in the sense of everything seemed to, I mean, I'm talking about the past, but the feeling at the time, or the knowing at the time, was that everything was directly perceived by consciousness, and there was a very strong feeling of contentment or happiness about that. And I remember that I shared that with you, and then you were saying, yes, but there is suffering. And it's very, or the world is suffering, or the world suffering, or something like that. And it's now sort of like nearly like a reverse position of like there is a lot of difficulty and suffering in this current scenario I'm living through. Mm-hmm. And it feels like the triggers have been increased. Not so much that the triggers themselves have increased, because if I look at it from a sort of like logical mind perspective, I can say, oh, well, I have lived through different or more difficult things. But right now it feels like an accumulation of triggers. Mm-hmm. And so this whole, I'm just bringing this up because of the sort of differences in the experience. Mm-hmm. So the knowing you and Frank were talking about hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? The knowing hasn't changed, and yet the experience of the knowing is radically different.
Yes.
And I would like you to talk a little bit about that if you feel like inspired by it.
Yes, Shiva.
Thank you.
Yeah. And can you stay on video? Do you mind?
Am I not on video?
Yes, you are. Good. Okay, stay on video, because I like to see you as I'm talking with you.
I know I'm completely on video all the time, but you know, our internet is, we have a lot of wind here on Hawaii, so it might go in and out, but
okay.
I can see myself in the little window above you, so.
I see you too. So what I like to share with you, Shiva, is that we are served what we are capable of and what we are ready for, especially, well, across the board, I was going to say, especially when we are interested in truth, but I would stick by that, especially when we are interested in truth. We are served just what the doctors prescribed.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
That's not that I haven't heard that one before.
No, I know you have. I know you have. I know you have. So Shiva, these are like great opportunities because, you know, sooner or later, we've got to step out of the mirage. I mean, sooner or later, we've got to get to God's palace. I mean, you know, enough is enough, okay? So whatever it takes, you know, whatever it takes, I'm on board. Whatever it takes, I'm on board. So what the way I feel, Shiva, is to, like, I know that you are already, you know, doing that, is that you're living it fully. You're open. You're open to it all. You're exploring the possibilities. There are situations where you need to make this phone call, you need to move this, you need to go there, etc. You're exploring all of that. But throughout the exploration, you are maintaining your openness. There is no hiding. There is no shutting down. You are open to it all, and you're available to wherever God's winds take you. And all you're doing is applying the best understanding that you have of the situation, and applying the wisdom that has come upon you from the lifetime of contemplation that I know you've been doing, and that you know you've been doing. It's there. The wisdom is there, the understanding is there, the compassion is there, the love is there, the capacity of navigating, you know, according to the right compass. The right compass is available to you. This all you need to do is follow the light within you, and if the waters are rapid waters, you follow the light, and you with the avec la rame, you know, with the la rame, you navigate the waters, whichever way it navigates, and all is well. All is well. So in our journey alongside
Magdi,
as we extend our hand and put it in God's hand, God never leaves our hand.
Right.
We may leave God's hand, but mom or dad never leave your hand. Well, as a metaphor, you know, God never leaves our hand. God's love never leaves us, never leaves us, never leaves us.
Right.
We may leave it. I don't know. We have to take a look at that. We take a look.
Right.
Are we getting caught up into the mind, the projection about me, what's going to happen? You know, there is magic. The entire realm is magical, Shiva. The entire realm is magical.
I know.
Be with you now is freaking magical, right? I mean, absolutely,
yes.
absolutely
magical.
The mind says this and that. Oh, this needs to be like this. This needs to be like that. Screw that. In fact, it's a bigger power. The sun shining, not a candle, but the candle. The sun is shining. The candle is, what's the candle? So follow that. That's there.
Well, thank you so much for this sharing. I don't know, my
Yes, Shiva. I deeply feel this way about you, and we are one in truth. We are one in truth.
You know, throughout the whole process, I feel a lot of thankfulness. You know, and it's amazing to see how from 1 month to the next,
beautiful,
this experience has shifted from this really nearly divine contentment to this, it feels like living through my early years of traumatizing childhood again, you know, on so many levels. There's this, like, these old triggers. And I was just really intrigued in this, what is there, which is still, and I think this is what is very humbling, and also probably the reason why this is also very powerful, is because it's very humbling to come from this position of, I mean, I don't want to say achievement, because there's nothing to be achieved, but this sort of like knowing, the deepening, the living of the understanding, and then suddenly, bang, 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 like 2 little triggers plus another 3 big triggers, and then here you are in this experience of like suffering of an intensity which I haven't been through in a very long time, and the idea that the experience is of value, meaning that it's good to have a contentment experience and it's bad to have a suffering experience.
Well,
You know, that is such a, it feels like a remnant or a deep layer of ego identification which is still there. Mm-hmm. And that's why I felt I wanted you to maybe also say something, and thank you so much for your love and for your support and what you just said about quote unquote me. But I felt like the whole nearly philosophical aspect of what exactly is an experience. Because yes, we can say the experience is phenomenal and the experience is perceived from consciousness or through or as consciousness, and yet the experience is also 100% consciousness, because there's no separation. So how come that this one is still not apparently qualified to be as balanced and calm when the waves are rocking high up in a deep storm, or when the waves are nice and balanced? Because this is what I take out of this whole thing at this point, is like, yeah, okay, way to go. You'll see, you know, you break or swim or float or whatever the English term is about it. You know, it's just sort of like, whoa, it's an experience. So it's real and it's actually completely unreal in the same time.
Yes. You know, what's coming to mind, like in your dream, you know, you're running away from the lion, you're scared, you know, your heart is pumping, you're running.
Right.
Just about where the lion is grabbing you. I mean, that's pretty intense. When it's just grabbing you, you wake up. What's also coming to mind is, like, you know, when you're washing laundry, like in the old days, we used to wash the laundry by the river, or, you know, in the bucket of water. We wash the laundry.
Very old days.
we wash it, we squeeze it, we soak it, we squeeze it, and then at some point we on a soak. How do you say it? You
wring it out.
You wring it, and then there's like sort of some sort of a final wringing, you know, where you're just getting those last drops of water out of the
that's usually the most effort, that moment.
Yeah, you ask about experience, and experience is dreamlike, but in the dream, it's both dreamlike, because, you know, where is the experience you had 2 seconds ago? So in a way, yes, it's dreamlike. At the same time, it doesn't seem to be dreamlike from another perspective, from the perspective of, you know, I am in the world, and the house is still sort of the same house, it's the same location, the same address, but my car is still green. It was green yesterday, it's green today. So there is like a level of, yes, it is dreamlike, because everything is dissolving second by second, moment by moment. The body is changing, everything is changing, the universe is changing in a big major way every second or every millisecond. But at another dimension, it doesn't seem to be so. It seems that, you know, so experience in a way is like that. There is a level where it seems to be continuous, has a continuity. But when you take a look at this continuity, obviously it's not the continuity of phenomena, because all the cells, all the molecules are, you know, so the continuity must belong to that which continues, which is eternal. It must be the continuity of consciousness.
Right.
The word continuity may not be correct, but so it must be that, because we do experience a certain sameness. And we say, well, the sameness is the sameness of the house, the sameness of the car, the sameness of my body. But in fact, when we take a closer look, say, no, that's not where the sameness is. Sameness is somewhere else. And we experience the sameness. We're sure about the sameness. And it's the sameness of that which is the same, which is consciousness. Change, which is not changing, but which is not phenomenal, you see. So, so experience, in a way, is like that. And the way we deal with it, I think it has both aspects. When we become aware of the reality of our experience is consciousness. So then we have that available to us. And of course, we have the mind available to us. The mind basically says, okay, there's an issue with this person. I'm going to have a conversation with this person. I'm going to explore this. I'm going to explore that. I'm going to make this phone call. I'm going to whatever. You know, the mind operates whichever way it operates within its limitation, within the limitations of the situation, within the limitations of the circumstances, which are all cosmic. They're all impersonal events.
Right.
We didn't even choose to be a male 6 foot tall or to be whatever, you know, we don't even choose our heartbeat. So yes, but yeah, there is a mind functioning, but there is also consciousness, which means the freedom, the peace, the joy, that which is not subject to the changes. Yes, the table is subject to changes, the house, the body, etc. But there is that which is not subject to change. So we have that available to us as our reality. As our reality. And it's, from the mind perspective, is like, well, it's abstract, you know, because the mind is just perceiving the color yellow, the shape of the tree, is perceiving via the senses, you see. So from the mind perspective, it's objective. It's all objective: thoughts, sensations, perceptions. But there is a guide to all of that. The guide is reality. And there is a wisdom. The wisdom is the understanding that arises to us, that I am this transparent presence, this transparent presence. It's just, I know it sounds like a broken record, and you know that record.
No, not at all. It doesn't sound like a broken record.
Direct experience. So
yeah.
let's just go back to our direct experience, because that we can count on. But this awareness.
You see what I mean? I think this is where it would be really interesting to, I mean, and then again, words will never really ever capture the living reality of consciousness. They can only point to it. So it's always the same. But like the direct experience of waking up with this, I mean, seemingly waking up, physical body coming back into waking state mode and being in this absolute pit of suffering, right? And then yes, you can, and like, believe me, I've done this many times.
There is action. There is, you know, again, you know, it's not about suffering. Consciousness isn't interested in suffering. So then there is an exploration.
Right.
Exploration, you know, that it takes the time that it takes, but the exploration is alive, is active.
Right.
You see? So there is the exploration.
Yes, no, I totally see that.
Right.
It's just such an interesting conundrum, because the fact that you know, I think most of us, I don't want to speak for the Sangha here, but I think most of us come from a place of let's say relative suffering, because otherwise why would we sit here and try to figure out the nature of reality, right? I mean, I say most of us.
Yeah.
So it's often because of not being able to make sense of life the way we are taught to be in life, that we sooner or later start asking ourselves these questions: who am I, etc. So then there's this incredible bliss of actually understanding it, you know, and we're all on various levels of that process, I guess. And then it's like the next step, and this is what everybody, including you, always say, is like the so-called enlightenment is just the first step, and then you sort of go into applying it in your life. And there's this deepening and deepening and deepening, and you come to this point where then everything can come up, which might have been hidden underneath a sort of functional operating unit, and suddenly as you said in the beginning, yeah, there's the strength to actually deal or live through that. Now, the curious thing is really like, okay, so here is clearly suffering.
Yes.
Okay, it's clearly, this is really what the perception of reality is.
Mm-hmm.
Is like there's intense suffering, and in that suffering is the knowing that the suffering is unreal, and yet the experience
Yes.
is present. So the only way I found is, and beside the understanding, is to just simply be with this energy field we call suffering, and just make sure that I'm not indulging into it, and make sure that I'm not castrating it, so that I'm neither going either way to cut or change it or modify it. And it's like, life is just like, well, okay, so let's see how much of this you can take, kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, woo.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm just sharing the process, and this, the fact that experience is in the same way so incredibly important and completely unimportant.
Yes.
On some level.
In terms of this sort of experience of suffering, there is, of course, the understanding that suffering refers to some form of resistance. But once that's understood and the suffering is going on, then there is the complete surrender. The complete surrender, right. Meaning to go to the not knowing, that right. The mind can possibly the mind can never know or will not know anything about the suffering. But yet, in spite of that, when the mind wants to figure it out, in spite of that, there is a surrender, complete surrender to that. And there is a surrender that comes to us sometimes where like sometimes we have choice A, B, and C. Sometimes surrender comes like there is choice 0 and it's surrender.
Right.
There is no 1, 2, or 3. It's like, okay, there's no one that's choosing surrender, but that's the choice.
Yeah. Hello.
And
hello.
My experience of that, because I think I shared that with you before, is that upon this choiceless choice of surrender, something amazing shifted, and I can only, it's magical. And so just sharing, a few words about that, yes, there is the activity of looking at it, what are the possibilities, what can be done, and at the same time, there is the surrender, and see what goes, see what goes.
Exactly.
I'm available.
There's nothing else to do anyway. I mean, it's like there's nothing else to do. So
fresh,
that's it.
Fresh new moment.
Inshallah, Allah Akbar. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for these satsangs, Magdi. Love you. Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Frank is driving again.
Oh, he is. Oh, yes.
Oh God, yes, I am.
He's
That's why I had myself off a video earlier. I don't know how you feel about driving and asking questions. That's why I just muted myself, and I had.
It's okay, as long as you are safe. Okay. Okay.
Very safe. Thanks for caring.
Okay, Frank. So, any questions?
Yeah. Hello. This
Hello,
is John.
John. Hello.
Hi. I'm hearing all this today. reminded me of, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago or so. I don't know. I felt like, I felt the suffering aspect, and I immediately went to look up stuff on video. A lot of times I go to, because I can't seem to do it on my own. So I look up, so I go to the the ones who have been through it. And so I go to I think I went to an old video. I think you and Zoe were talking, and you were talking about the twig and the strawberry. And I had heard that once before, and you were talking about that, and life presents you with these things and so forth and so on. So they're of great value in that sense, And I listened to that, and I also listened to one of Rupert's. Rupert has his title, The Royal Way to Approach Suffering. And it's very good too. And the reason why I do that is because I know now that a lot of times I will separate myself and be the person, say, I have to get out of this. It has nothing. I would like to say it has nothing to do with that, but obviously something's going on to do with that. But it is kind of reinforcing the separation. And so I know that I want to know the truth. I mean, sometimes the suffering is bad enough. I say, look, I want to know the truth. Okay. And so I know to go to you and a few other people, but you, I went to, and I heard you and Zoe talking, and I say it was helpful, not because it necessarily gets rid of the suffering, but it does change things. It does put in perspective sometimes for me that what the false is and what is not false, and what is real and what is not real, and in that sense, other things begin to drop. So consequentially, even the so-called suffering, because a lot of that is due to my thinking, my thoughts, and stuff like that. So anyway, I guess what I was trying to say is that it is difficult to experience what I think is suffering and so forth and so on. And yet at the same time, it is an opportunity. And I will have to say, listening to, and it's nothing personal with Rupert, but listening to Rupert's video, he talks about suffering is non-existent. There's three approaches, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, and that was, so sometimes some things even make me feel more tense, but that's about a me, and that's about a personal me. And nonetheless, though, I listened, and I listened to yours, and I just want to know the truth. But I will tell you that there is a separate person that feels a tension and even says, I don't want to know this truth, I don't know. Let me get on. So
Well, yeah, John, this separate person appears to you. It appears to you because you just mentioned there is a separate person. So obviously, the fact that you mentioned there is a separate person, then you did perceive a separate person. That separate person that you perceived appeared to you, and it's not you. Whatever appears to you is not you. Suffering, speak of suffering. In a way, it may seem academic, but maybe it's not academic. That suffering refers to a sufferer.
Yeah.
And the the sufferer is somebody, not to be denied, is somebody, which appears to you. And you feel such empathy for this person, that you sort of merge into their suffering, you merge into them. But even though you feel empathy and you merge into their suffering, there's still an appearance. They're still appearing to you. They're still appearing to you. Yes, I hesitate that this may sound academic, but there is an aspect to what I'm sharing which is not academic. It's true. It's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So maybe this form of suffering is our love for the other, whatever the other is, the other being somebody that's appearing to you. So maybe we, at some level, we want to love this person, whoever this person is, and so we take on their suffering. To but freedom from their suffering, maybe. It may sound a little mad, but maybe it's not that mad. Maybe there is such deep love within us that maybe this other is humanity at large, or ignorance at large, or that we are sort of projecting as this other, and we immediately merge into them as a me, they're me, they're myself, and offer on behalf of all of humanity. Yes, maybe that's what's going on, but at the same time, we are. There is an understanding that is blooming within us, that is burgeoning within us, and the understanding is about awareness that there is a reality in our experience which does not suffer, which has nothing to do with suffering, which is love, and it's that love that maybe is choosing suffering, but that love is not in fact suffering. It cannot suffer. Awareness cannot suffer.
Yeah.
But it takes on the form of intense suffering, out of some sort of love,
Yeah.
I know it's not sort of a model I'm presenting to you. It may be helpful, it may be helpful to sort of realize that, yes, there is the freedom of consciousness, the freedom of awareness, and at the same time, there is this love for the suffering dreamers, or this dreaming aspect in the suffering, and so we embrace that. And one thing that's coming to mind also, John, is that freedom from suffering is not for oneself. It's not for a particular character. I often share that as one, as a totality, freedom is freedom for everyone, on behalf of everyone.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to honor everybody's freedom by recognizing our own.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I hear you, and it's another a way of like seeing it and or experiencing it.
Yes.
Knowing it. And yet at that particular time, it was very much, for me, what it seemed like is very much that I couldn't run from it. That's it. I couldn't avoid it. I couldn't run from it.
Absolutely. But where is it now?
Yeah. I can bring it back up.
No, that's not the question. That's not the question. The question is, where is it now? Obviously.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. And there is no sense running away from it. Why running away from it is giving it power.
Yeah, that's been, so I think somebody earlier talked about, of course, conditioning in the way, we can all say we've been brought up different ways, and so we approach things in different ways, or we believe certain things because of the conditioning, so-called conditioning, and all that kind of stuff. And I have my sort of memories and thoughts that come up, whether they're completely conscious or not, means I'm remembering them or not, but they're back in the back, or and they don't come up, but they're being acted on by the body. But those things are so strong, and there's such a compulsion, and yet as I go deeper with this, it's that's what has to, for me, that's what works, I guess I can say. Because it brings me closer to my true nature, and my true nature then is not affected by all of this.
The strength of this suffering is obviously limited, because in this moment it's not there.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, they're strong, relatively speaking, they're strong. The only thing that is really absolute is that which doesn't come and go.
I know.
I mean, right? So yeah, I mean, out of our old habit, it's like, oh my God, I'm, hell on earth is happening. Yeah, from a relative perspective, it seems this way. But if you zoom out a little bit and you go, 5 days later, or a month later, or a year later, where the heck is all of that? Boom, it's gone.
Yeah, and my actually the thought processes were, well, this is not something that's going to go away, and it's not like the boss yelled at me or something. This is something more physical, like I'm going to go blind or something like that, and I go, oh, then my life's going to be, and I don't have any money, and but the all the thought and all that other stuff and everything that's happening, I still have to face it, and I mean, there's no other way. I mean, I'm going to face whatever's there,
yes,
and whether I like it or not.
Yeah, John, there is only one freedom.
Yes,
there's only one freedom, and it's the freedom from the illusion of separation.
Yeah.
It's not about the freedom of the body not going blind, not going deaf, not losing money, not being able to survive. All of that is a snap. It's a snap. 100 years are gone in a snap. There is one freedom, and it's the freedom from the illusion of separation, the belief that I am the body-mind, the belief that consciousness is mortal. I know that I sound like a broken record, but there is only one reality. There's one.
It's the truth. It's the truth. It will set you free.
So to be clear within oneself about, like, really, what am I here for? I mean, okay, fine, I'm taking care of the body, I'm feeding it, okay, make go blind, I don't know, I'm gonna see the doctor, blah blah. Okay, all this is sideline. I mean, I know that we're conditioned to say, what are you talking about? This is sideline. You're talking about me going blind, is sideline. You go blind and tell me if it's sideline. No, I am saying it is sideline. It is sideline. And we have to decide that this is sideline, and it doesn't mean to be ignored or to be disregarded. No, that's not what I mean. We tend to it the best we can, but we don't compromise our freedom and our inquiry into truth.
Yes, I'm hearing you. It's the only way. I mean, I say I have no choice, but those probably aren't the best words to use. But in a way, I have no choice, because the truth is the truth. I just don't have. The other way is going deeper into suffering, and I've already tasted the freedom, and I know it's there, and
absolutely.
That's just the way it is. It's the body, and even the body and the mind know to go in that direction.
Yes.
It knows to go into that, the direct path, and so forth and so on. So,
the same.
but it's not. Some things are very strong.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, we do tend to the body. We do, you know, but not from the place where my happiness or my peace is at stake. No, okay, it's whatever it is. We're open to all possibilities at the body-mind level. We have intelligence. We have a certain capacity, limited at the world body-mind level. It's limited. We apply the best we can. Okay. But we don't compromise the essential.
Yeah, I'm going to remember that. That's the thing. We just don't compromise. We don't compromise.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's something that I'll remember. You know, it's important. That resonates a lot for me. There's no compromising. Okay, Magdi.
All right, John. You know, nice to see you. Yeah.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. Okay. All right, everyone. Very lovely to be with you all. Thank you. You know, Lulu, nice to see you, Lulu, and Kelly. Hey, Kelly. John, Charlie. Hello, Charlie. Frank, George, Holger, and Patrick, and Malcolm. Hey, Malcolm. Good to see you, Malcolm. Yes, Grace. Hello, Grace. Shiva, and Desmond. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you.